I'd like to welcome you to BMORENEWS.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. We're here at the National Association of Black Journalists National Meeting, Regional
Board
Meeting,
meeting.
Board meeting with the one and only Roland Martin. How are you, sir?
All good.
Good. Many consider you the quintessential voice for black journalism. First of all, off the bat, what is the role of the black journalist in today's society?
Well, actually, the role of the black journalist is the same as any journalist. That is, speak truth to power. And also, it's understanding how we have changed, if you will, in terms of presentation of information. And so those who are commentators, those who are opinion writers, those who are correspondents, reporters, all are part of this whole process. I think one of the most important things to remember is that we are not to shy away from the tough stories and asking the difficult questions. And that is, even with the people who look like us, folks we might personally like and respect, we also must hold them accountable for what they're doing in the public square.
And that's a great segue to our President Barack Obama. Lately in the news, Afghanistan has been on the forefront. Any thoughts?
Well, they're doing the entire review. Part of the problem is that it is an unpopular decision by Democrats. African Americans have the highest disapproval of increasing troops in Afghanistan. So it's difficult to have your largest, most important voting bloc be dead set against wanting to have additional troops in Afghanistan. At the same time, people have to remember that that's where 9/11 was planned, where they were trained. And so I think people also have to understand the public safety component, because if we say, well, just totally pull out, then there's another terrorist hit, and people will say, well, what do you do? So it's sort of damn if you do, damn if you don't. So I think it is a smart strategy also to take your time in making that decision, not rush to judgment, listen to all the stakeholders, and make the appropriate decision.
The Taliban, Al-Qaeda, they are now considered synonymous? Is that your understanding?
Not necessarily true, because remember, you have those who are, according to General McChrystal, there are some 100 Al-Qaeda fighters still left in Afghanistan, but many of them have gone into Pakistan. Then you have the Taliban government that gave them, frankly, the opportunity to grow and build. But we also have certain forces, according to our own intelligence, in the Pakistani intelligence that also are basically helping the Taliban or Al-Qaeda. And so you have all these different relationships. I think one of the things that Americans don't understand is that you're dealing with tribal systems. You're not dealing with a central government. In essence, imagine if there was one individual in every neighborhood in America running what took place in that neighborhood. So if you actually took the gang structure or the drug structure in America and applied that to what's happening in Afghanistan, then that's what you have. That's why you have a situation where the Taliban takes over a certain portion of Pakistan, and then the military has to go in and retake it because they don't have a central structure the same way we do. I don't think Americans truly understand how their own systems work in their country. That was one of the things that we had to learn in Iraq. Bottom line is Saddam Hussein governed that because they were tribal leaders. That's the difference.
On the domestic front, national health care reform has been in the forefront. How do you think this president is doing?
Well, first of all, they've gotten farther than anybody else has, but the problem is that you have to go to the next level. So right now you have unions dead set against taxing what they call the Cadillac plans. That's a big part of them raising the money for health care reform. And then, of course, you have Republicans who don't want the public option, some conservative Democrats who don't want the public option. The bottom line is, I think what you're going to find is you're going to find the progressives and the liberals in the House being extremely diligent in trying to press that. And we've already seen the reports of the president in terms of making calls to folks, pushing the public option as well, according to Los Angeles Times. And so that's really what you have. You're going to have a lot of back and forth, and so we have not seen the last of the serious debates.
One of the major issues here in the city of Baltimore is murder. No doubt out in Chicago they've had teen murder. Any thoughts on black youth and violence and murder in our urban centers?
Well, look, my philosophy is I always go back and try to establish what is the root cause. And so there is no doubt to me that the fundamental issue is when you have a breakdown in the family structure, you're seeing that kind of response on the streets. When you take a breakdown in the family structure, combine that with lack of education, people dropping out, combine that with no money, combine that with there being a generation before them that's also undereducated, they don't have the resources as well, you are creating the perfect storm for them. But I will say this again and again. You cannot ask the president, the governor, the mayor, a councilman to figure out how to stop violence. The only thing that they can do, frankly, is really a public safety issue, also providing the kind of community resources in terms of after-school stuff. Unless, like for instance, we had the fight that was in Chicago. I made the point, the guy asked me, what are you going to do? I said, wait a minute. Somebody had to see those kids fighting on the side of the road every day. Now, if I had 5 kids who came home every day and bloody and beaten, then I need to say, wait a minute. I need to then wait for you after school, and we're going to come home, and I'm going to be with you on that trail to figure out what happened. At some point, people in those neighborhoods must give a damn. And I've said over and over again, you cannot have a strong America without strong states. Strong states require strong cities require strong neighborhoods require strong blocks require strong streets require strong houses. That means the person in that house must decide this is how we're going to operate, and then you actually build that way. And so the way to solve the murder rate in Baltimore, the way to solve what's happening in Chicago is you have to have people who are living in homes actually give a damn and then build from there.
Well, see, that's a great point. 44% of America's prisons are comprised of black males, considering that black people in general comprise some 15 to 20% of the population.
Right.
There's an absence of black males, and for
right.
me,
I mean, and that is a fundamental issue.
Yes.
And you cannot have 25% black men graduate in Detroit, 35% graduate in Chicago, and then you somehow think that it's going to change. It also boils down to public education. You can't have black men complaining about the lack of economic opportunities when you don't have a high school diploma. I mean, all of those things go hand in hand. I mean, so they are not divorced from one another. And so you frankly have a culture where it says, look, I want it now, but you just simply can't get it now. And when Frank Clark, who's the CEO of ComEd in Chicago, Frank makes $4 million a year. He's not a basketball player, he's not a singer, but he's making $4 million a year. Okay, but that was hard work over a period of time. And so that has to be made perfectly clear, but there's no doubt that you have to have men who are in the lives of those babies from the get-go. Otherwise, you're going to see what happens now, and that's it. I mean, I fundamentally believe that the future of the black community is all dependent upon the condition of black men, pure and simple.
Since we've interrupted your NABJ board meeting, any thoughts on NABJ and the significance of it to not just the realm of journalists, but to black people in general?
Well, again, though, I mean, if you are an African American who's a community activist, who's a politician, who's an entertainer, I mean, more than likely you're going to have a better understanding of what you do because of black journalism. I'll give an example. On my TV One show, we're going to be using it to showcase African American entertainers who are involved in public policy. If you look at mainstream media today, you will swear the only entertainers who are involved in what's happening in Africa, what's happening on the Gulf Coast, are Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and Bono. But if you look at what Jeffrey Wright is doing in Sierra Leone, you look at what Gabrielle Union is doing when it comes to increasing funding for rape crisis centers in America, when you look at what Terrence Howard is doing, when you look at what Halle Berry is doing, you have individuals. I mean, Alicia Keys, I was at her Black Ball Thursday night, which was part about saving children in Africa, how she's providing resources to grandmothers who are having to deal with AIDS orphans. They honor President Bill Clinton and Sir Richard Branson. And so these are individuals who oftentimes don't get covered. You don't see Brian Williams following them to Africa like he did for Bono. You don't see them traveling to other parts of the country. You look at Kenny Thomas, who plays for the Sacramento Kings, who's about to launch a national tutoring project. And so I think black journalists serve a role in terms of highlighting those stories and bringing those to the fore, as opposed to their stories, frankly, being ignored by mainstream media.
Good deal. Thank you for your time, Mr. Roland Martin.
Not a problem.
Keep watching BMORENEWS.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.